Wow, my Snapchat's on fire, guys. Just got a notice. Hey guys, just Fergus, that one guy who does art. Happy Friday, everybody. Another week of art, filmmaking, and animation is done. How is everybody? Hey. I just tapped out at work. I did my timesheet. Kung Fu Dork, what's up? How you been? Ducks the devil, I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm excited. It's Friday. Muse, what's up, man? Thank you, Warren. I'm excited for the weekend. It's raining here, which it never does. I'm really excited about that too. Gonna have a cool Friday night movie with my family, and maybe do a little Muse. Thank you, man. Have a nice dinner together. Maybe do some animation setup in the garage. I got some new ideas I want to start working on after everybody goes to bed. Awesome. You've got the best job ever. I agree. I will not argue that. I love being an animator very much. Stop motion, CG, 2D, you name it. I would love it. Giving life to characters is incredibly fun. Eduardo Oropesa! What's up, buddy? That's my dinosaur master. For all you guys back there, you see that dinosaur, that T-Rex there? That's Eduardo's creation. You guys want an awesome dinosaur, go talk to Eduardo Oropesa at T-Rex Productions. He's amazing. He's making me some velociraptors right now. So that guy over there is going to be doing some battle in my garage very soon with a couple of velociraptors. I'm very excited about that. It's going to look amazing, even though I have no idea what I'm going to do yet. Choreography on that one's going to be really important. I'm going to have to sit down and really imagine something and all the beats and the rhythms of the fight. It's going to be really fun. What's the new project? Ducks. Just so you know, Ducks are the devil. So you just saw, maybe today, I released another collaboration with Frantic Frames, where he came out actually and visited the studio. And we were, honestly, I'd never met him before. He just said, hey, I'm in town. Like your stuff. And I'm like, hey, cool, I like your stuff too. He came over, showed him the studio. We were working on the Motu stuff at the time. For all of you who aren't from the 80s and might not know what Motu is, that's the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. And so we got to show him the set. I showed him some of my animation. And we kind of on the spot came up with a collaboration to do that little gunfight that I posted today. And it was really fun. You know, he specializes in clay. I specialize in more character stuff. But it was fun. You know, I made the puppet out of clay. I made a clay Frantic Frames and animated them and composited it into the live action scene that we shot in my gymnasium that was being built at the time. So to answer that question again, the collaborations that I'm doing right now is major. So I did the dinosaur with Eduardo Oropesa. I did the Frantic Frames claymation collaboration. I did the Suzanne Moulton Cat from Coraline that I just posted this week collaboration. She made that puppet for me and I animated it. I'm doing an episode right now on unboxing that and also the process I went through animating it. And then the other ones are secret. So I want to tell you, I'm going to tell you they're awesome, but I can't tell you what they are yet. But one of them is from my generation again, something from back in the 80s that I'm kind of bringing to life again. And there's an actual Toymation, a new Toymation. I can tell you about that. Actually, very soon, where I actually am going to try finally to bring some Transformers, some toys. Transformers were from the 80s, and I was a huge fan, of course, like everyone was back then. Along with He-Man and Masters of the Universe, Transformers and Thundercats and G.I. Joe were probably my top toy cartoons. So I'm going to do some animation with the Transformer that I've been thinking about for a long time. So I got the toy in the mail, and I'm going to be maybe shooting some live action plates and then jumping on that one, doing some cool stuff. So I'm excited. That's probably what the newest project is that I can announce to you. Let's see. Jim Randall, what's up, buddy? And Jim Randall, of course, is another person I'm doing a collaboration with. His is related to my film a little bit more, where not only am I animating all these projects with side things for my social media, but, you know, I have my Viking character for the film that me and my wife are making called The Beast. And we're working on that all the time. It's a long, long process. Doing a short film takes years and years to do on your own, especially with all the other crazy stuff I'm doing. But you can see here, I'm resculpting the Viking right now because that version that I showed you over here was the foam latex version. And this is going to be more along the lines of silicone, which is kind of my new favorite style of puppet because it looks so clean and it really just looks like cool and animated in a lot of ways. And if you see my Overwatch stuff, you know what that looks like. It's really, really just beautiful. Oh, see? And the body, the skin textures, everything just looks really great. And so I really want my Viking film to look like that, which is why I decided to resculpt everything and kind of go back to having more of a silicone looking puppet. It's still going to have textured elements, like if you look at the skirt on the old Viking, you know, it's like it's got like more texture, and the beard, if you look at the beard, you know, it was one of my daughter's teddy bears that I ripped up and made beard hair out of it, and then I put some materials in it to make it stiff, so while I animate, it stays put. But we're going through a big process. The wolf character that you guys maybe saw a while back, is molded, and in fact, there's some silicone in it right now that's drying downstairs. So we'll be showing you guys some sneak peeks of that soon. How do you take care of your feet when animating stop motion for long hours? You know what? This is a great question, guys. Because I, as a CG animator, sit on my butt all the time. And every time I go to work on a stop motion film or a long project where I'm now have to stand for 10 hours or more a day, you know, because there was times on Paranorman where I was working 14-hour days. Certainly, you know, Kubo, I had plenty of 12-hour days. The secret that I found was sit down. And as often as you can, sit down. So what I would do is, when you're working on big films, especially like a feature film, you press click on the picture and it goes tick, tick. And sometimes your exposure can last a long time, right? And also, you know, sometimes when you're taking a picture, you kind of got to get out of the way, right? You don't want your shadow to cause a flicker on the character or something like that. There's often multiple exposures on a feature film. So it'll be like, and you have to wait a second. And then, and you have to wait a second, right? And if they're shooting a 3D film, the camera goes left eye, right eye, and it can last a while. It's not like in television where it's like, okay, next frame, next frame. You can get a lot of downtime just waiting for the photographs to be taken. Especially if it's on a motion control crane too, it might go to the next position. It takes time. So I would try to sit down between every frame or as often as I could without losing the flow. And that really helped my feet a lot. The other thing I did that helped was I got cushy pads for my shoes. And they're just like those Dr. Scholl's things you get at like a CVS pharmacy or something like that. And it will help your feet tremendously. Especially because I like to do things like use my feet, like sports and stuff like that. So I was finding that I was sometimes like crippled because my feet were so sore when I first started becoming a professional stop motion animator. And I'm like, man, I can't do all the things I want to do. So I had to find and adapt ways. But there's also a conditioning that takes place where you will, as a stop motion animator, develop more and more tolerance and more endurance for the type of stuff you have to do physically. So I think that answered. Let's see. What are the lines on your head? I answered this last week, and then a couple weeks ago, and then a couple weeks ago, Jonah Curtis. So if you go watch my last live stream, you'll get the answer. Otherwise, ask me next one. I don't want to answer it every single time I do a live stream. So get me next time, or listen to the last live stream and you'll hear the answer to it. Would you do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Absolutely. Absolutely. I would love to do Ninja Turtles. And, I very briefly talked to the Ninja Turtle people toy company, right? And I don't know how it works with as far as getting gigs with some of these companies that make these products. I'm expecting them to come to me if they want it. I expressed interest. I said, hey, I would love to animate these because, again, Transformers, Thundercats, He-Man, G.I. Joe, Ninja Turtles. You just named basically the top 5 toys for me all through the 80s and then some of the 90s. I would kill Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I would do some really, really rad animation with those characters. So I would love to do it. And maybe someone will contact me. Talk to any toy company and tell them, hire Justin. Hire Justin to do some Ninja Turtles. I'll put all my love and passion into it. Hola, saludos desde Colombia. Hola, Danieldo. Hello from Los Angeles. Let's see here. Whoa. Sorry, guys. Still, to this day, getting a little goofy with how all these questions work. How did I start animation? Being a 2D artist, I just drew all the time. I read comic books. I wanted to be a Ninja Turtle. I wanted to be a superhero, an X-Men. So I would draw them and then I would move, right? So I would flip around and do stunts at the house and stuff like that. And then naturally, when I played with my action figures, I would animate them before I ever had access to any kind of cameras. Like nowadays, every phone can do stop motion. I would have freaked out as a kid if I had that. But I just would play with my action figures in a really fun, animated way. And then the first kind of animation I really had access was 2D animation, and that was in art school. So I started with 2D, learned the computer, and then about 10 years later, I said, I'm tired of the computer. I love real stuff, 3-dimensional artwork. And then I tried stop motion and, never looked back. Love it. Nothing like stop motion. Let's see here. Got a couple more. What do you recommend to a person who doesn't have concentration capacity? And I guess what you mean basically is patience. What do I recommend to someone who doesn't have that? I recommend maybe trying a different element of stop motion, right? So if you don't have patience to do animation, maybe you do lighting and photography, right? So you're really just setting up one moment in time, right? Like a lot of the toy photographers out there, they set up these really beautiful images that tell a whole story, but you only have to make one pose, right? So it's making that look as good and cool as possible on a miniature. Maybe it's painting puppets, or I don't know, making sets. Maybe that would be a little bit more to your liking, as opposed to the what a lot of people think is tedious, which is animation. I don't find it tedious at all. I love it. But I can see it being hard on many, many people. Stop motion it's not only a slow, hard process, it has constant problems. So it doesn't make it any easier on itself, because things are constantly going wrong. Everything's falling over, things are melting, or lights are wiggling. There's always problems. So it's a huge pain in the butt. And that's a certain personality type that will be able to deal with that. Who was your favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle from the 80s cartoon? I mean, I love the nunchucks. The nunchucks guy. I can't even remember his name. Is that Donatello? The guy with the nunchucks, because that was my favorite weapon. I think that was my favorite guy. Do you offer classes or tutorials? Yeah, I teach every week. I had 2 students today. I offer private Zoom classes and mentorships. It's not cheap, so I don't know where you're from, but I work with people all over the world. I'm working with someone in UK right now. I'm working with another American. I work with people in Brazil. I work with people in France, all over. So I usually can find some kind of a time matchup. I'm really curious for all of you that are here, because I'm expensive, right? You're getting private education from me. I'm online with just getting any kind of online education. If you go to Animation Mentor or iAnimate or whatever, Anim Squad, their prices are like my prices, except I'm private and you're in a group with those people. But I'm thinking about making a Patreon, which I've never really considered before, because then I could have some education that's at a lighter price, which means like I would have one tutorial, because everyone's asking me for tutorials all the time. One tutorial a month. And my live streams would move there. Maybe I'd have some private Q&As, stuff like that, and homework assignments, but at a much less heavy price. And if people were interested in that, that would be a way to maybe get education, which it's not as good, obviously, as having a private one-on-one with me, but it's a way to get some direct information from me. And it also supports me doing what I want to do, which is art and animation, right? Because like I'm working on a new episode right now, you guys, just so you know. And, you know, every episode I make is 10 minutes now for YouTube. I don't get any payment for my YouTube. I don't have any monetization or anything like that. I'm just doing this because I enjoy it and I share. But it would be awesome if I could actually make some money at this stuff too. So I don't have to, you know, my time. I stay up all night. I do all these things and they take time and it takes effort for me every Friday to even have a live stream like this. So I enjoy it. It's cool, but it would be awesome to have a little support from the community too. So let me know if anyone's interested in that, and I'll consider it more and more as I go, opening a Patreon. Have you ever done stop motion without looking back at your frames? Yeah. When I first started, my very first film, I don't know how many of you have seen any of my old stuff, but when I started, I did a film called Gerald's Last Day. And I didn't have a frame grabber like we do now with Dragon Frame when I did that film. I had a webcam, a black and white webcam that went right through the viewfinder of my camera, my digital camera. And that digital camera shot what we called a preview frame to a program called Monkey Jam. And Monkey Jam was a free kind of 2D program back in the day. And what I would do is I would animate about 40 to 50 frames just straight ahead. And then I would do this thing where you preview. You'd press a button and it'd go preview and it'd go like, and it would make it into a moving video. So Gerald's Last Day was straight ahead. And every 40 or 50 frames, I would look at my file. So there was no playback, like constant playback. There was only flipping, which is what I did, right? Just flipping so I could see my last frame and see my current frame. So that way I could make sure things are moving good on the arcs. But if I wanted to see actual playback, I had to do a whole like kind of render thing where it's say you press a button and go like rendering 30 frames or whatever, or from here to there. I don't even remember, it's been so long. But yeah, so that was all. Gerald was pretty straight ahead without like playback. And it was great for me to start there because it really gave me perspective on, you know, like Ray Harryhausen and all the old timers that did it with like, you know, even Nightmare. I think their frame grabber only went back like 5 frames or something like that. It was really, they got to see the flow of 5 frames, but it's a whole different game. And you really realize how good those animators were at tracking stuff back then when they didn't have access. Because it's hard. What do you think is the best way to study an animated shot of a film to improve your skills? The best way, I guess it's like to take it into QuickTime. I'll usually, I'll download a clip if I like it, you know, off YouTube or something like that, and then take it into QuickTime where I can just frame through it. Just frame through it one at a time. Click, click, click forward, click, click, click back. Watch their spacing, watch their posing, listen to the timing, watch the gestures and the expressions, and you can learn tons doing that. And that's a part of my job as an animator. Anytime I'm animating on a feature film, is watching everyone else's shots, because you can learn. And not only is it just fill you up with inspiration constantly, but you're sitting there watching choices they're making. You're watching things that work and things that don't. You see one of the other animators on the team do something that's freaking awesome, you click through that and you really check it out and diagnose it. So I personally like QuickTime. Professional studios have their own software so you can click through it. But that's how I'll do it at home. How much time do you use for blocking? At here at the garage, 0. Unfortunately, because I don't have time. I'm busy as hell. I work full time. I have a family. I have so much art I'm doing all the time. And also my social media. I'm trying to create content in this format that's like 12-second entertainment, 15-second entertainment. Most of it's some girl shaking her butt. You know what I mean? Or like some opinion that takes this millisecond to create for a lot of the creators. And I have to get in the garage and grind. I have to grind for months to make a puppet. Then I have to grind for nights and nights, weeks sometimes, to get an animation. And then you have to grind to make the animation look nice before I release it to you guys. So there's a lot of work that goes into making one little piece of content here. So I don't block. I don't block at home. That cat I just did, the Coraline cat, if any of you guys saw that, hopefully you did. That was straight ahead, start to finish. All of it was up here. I didn't even draw thumbnails this time. That's the closest thing I do to blocking nowadays is thumbnails. So I just said, here's what I want. I want the character to start here, go there. I got a few ideas. Originally, I was just going to have the cat put her head in the hole and pop up the other hole, just like in the film, right? But when I got to the back hole, I'm like, I want a jumper. That's so much cooler if I... And then I had the idea that I could make it a loop, right? If he lands in the exact same spot, it'll be a loop, right? So that's improv. That's improvisation, which is super fun part of stop motion. So no blocking. But on a feature film, I'll block usually for a full day or a half a day, depending on how big the shot is, if that answers that question. Amazing collab you had with Frantic Frames. Thank you so much, Animatable Alex. It was a lot of fun. I made that puppet of Frantic Frames, and I think I might have to do one more since I went through all the trouble making that puppet. We shot more footage of us doing some more ideas for the collab, so I might do one more. between the two of us before I move on to the next thing too. I'm really glad you liked it. Thank you. What inspired you to do the Coraline dog sequence last week? Well, it was a cat, first off. But what inspired me, I'll tell you, I love Coraline. Coraline is my second favorite stop motion film ever. And Coraline, I didn't get to work on. I was still kind of in the garage, just a regular person animating for fun. And when that film came out, I was like so blown away and inspired. I was like, you can do that in stop motion? Oh my God, that's amazing. Like the facial performance, the body, the quality of animation, the designs were so gorgeous. I was just so inspired by it, and I didn't get to work on it. So it was like one of those things where you're like, oh, I wish I got to work on Coraline. It's a classic to me. And so to scratch that itch, because Suzanne Moulton makes these little bendy cats, which are basically little miniature replicas of the cat from Coraline, I was like, oh my God, that's perfect. I'll get to animate the cat, show off her amazing work, and then have another collectible for my huge room of collectible stop motion stuff, right? Like I have so much stuff in here that's, related to things that inspired me my whole life. And a lot of it is stop motion based too. So would you ever do Spider-Man? Yes, I would. Absolutely. Who doesn't want to animate Spider-Man? Just tell me that. I don't know anyone who doesn't want to animate Spider-Man. I have to make choices for people that are requesting me all the time for stuff. And I have all these collaborations this year. I have the Toymation new thing I'm going to do with the Transformer. I'm slowly going into this. And just so you know, too, I don't want to give away free animation because I'm trying to become a professional and do work for studios, right? So if I'm not doing work for me, then I want to get paid for it. And Spider-Man, there's a million Spider-Man toys. There's a million toy companies that make Spider-Man stuff. And I promise I would do an amazing job at it, but I want to get paid for my work, especially if a big company like that with Spidey. So I'm kind of holding off on a lot of the Toymation stuff because I want that to be real work for me that someday could pay some bills. Just so you know, that's why it's lower on my priority list. Plus, a lot of people have animated Toy Spider-Man too, and I'd like to do some stuff that maybe not everyone has seen as much. Unless it's just real special to me, like Transformers, because there's a million people that have animated Transformers too. What animators are your referent for you? What animators are referent for you? I'm not sure what you mean, but maybe like you mean which ones are my favorite or who inspired me. And I would say Don Bluth, who made Secret of Nim, obviously, is a huge inspiration. Dragon's Lair, huge inspiration. I love a lot of the classic Disney stuff. I like Ray Harryhausen, obviously, is a huge, huge animator inspiration. Those two are probably the biggest for me. Phil Tippett was huge. He animated basically all the stuff in the 80s. ILM, Tauntauns and AT-ATs and Star Wars stuff, RoboCop, like all that kind of stuff he was a big part of, and that made a huge impact on me too. Do you think you would do a King Kong stop motion? Yes, I sure would. I would love to do a King Kong stop motion. I know there's a few people doing some King Kong right now because the movie's coming out and a lot of people are kind of trending to make something with that, but I would love to do King Kong. Just as much as like the dinosaur in Jurassic Park, which I'm animating, the T-Rex. I would love to do a battle between those guys. I promise you it would be amazing. But one thing at a time. It's on my list for sure. King Kong. And again, if someone hired me for that one, woo, that'd be awesome. Let's see here. What made you really get into this form of animation? Big Lex. Watching movies when I was a kid, you know, like I was so affected by, you know, these films with this gorgeous art and fantasy and, not knowing how it was done. And like Ray Harryhausen with dinosaurs and monsters and fantasy creatures. I knew it was real and I knew it was magically alive somehow. So when I finally found out what was creating that, it was just so exciting. And I wanted to make movies and I wanted to bring creatures to life. So that led me down the path to find stop motion. And then, you know, I fell in love. All I had to do was try it. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. This is amazing. So I hope that answers it. How many hours do you sleep and what time do you start animating in the morning? This is funny. I get asked. It's always different. And sometimes more, sometimes less. Like last night I was animating and I'm like, oh crap, I teach in the morning, right? And I teach really early because I'm teaching people in the UK and I was like, okay, I can't stay up all night tonight because I have to have some beans tomorrow to do my education. Usually I'm working by around 8 a.m. in the morning. I'll work till 6 p.m. Or 7 depending on what's going on. Then I hang out with my family, we chill, do whatever we're going to do, and then I usually get in the garage around 11 p.m. And if I get in the garage around 11, I'll animate as long as I can until I'm like, okay, I got to crash, right? So the thing is working on a computer is a lot easier than working, say, you know, standing up or I don't know, doing, you know, working a ditch or something like that where you're really taxing your body. So I find myself having energy even with low amounts of sleep. And I love CG animation too. So because I love CG animation and it feeds my soul, it just doesn't seem like I require that much right now. But I prefer, of course, to get at least 6 hours of sleep. Love watching your work and passion. Any old gem you'd recommend? An old gem of mine or an old gem of a movie? Love those pure craft jobs. I'm not sure. So I guess I'll give you a recommendation of a movie for stop motion. If you haven't seen Harryhausen's work, you should definitely go see it. Jason and the Argonauts, Clash of the Titans, Sinbad and the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. Any of the Sinbad movies, you're going to find some cool stop motion. Those are probably my favorites of kind of the old creature feature stuff. I definitely would suggest, you know, seeing King Kong, RoboCop, Terminator, like a lot of the 80s film like Willow that had stop motion characters in them were really, really cool. Like even little things like Gremlins. There's little things that you don't even think about, like E.T., right? Like when Elliot is flying across the moon in that really famous shot. That was a stop motion puppet, you know what I mean? Like that's something you don't think about, but there's lots of little moments like that snuck into cinema over the years. But Nightmare Before Christmas, I'm sure you've seen. Coraline is amazing. I don't know. There's something from the past there. Secret of NIMH, go see it. It's 2D, but fucking magic, man. It's magic. All right. When you find out that you like doing stop motion, as soon as I tried it, the first time I tried it, the first time I saw something come to life that was photographed, especially since I already knew how to animate. I knew how to 2D animate and I knew how to 3D CG animate. So the first time the photograph started coming to life, I was hooked. I was like, wow. And I think I shared with you guys my first animation ever which was a Bumble character I made in a single night. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. I think it's on my feed in TikTok. Opinions on Will Vinton. For all of you young people, Will Vinton changed the world in a huge way. Like when claymation came out in the 80s, it was so unique. And it kind of overtook commercial work like California Raisins, Avoid the Noid, a bunch of Michael Jackson videos. Like, it really was unique because the character designs were really appealing and really dimensional. Kind of like Mad Magazine, if any of you even know that, the way they would caricature people. And then it was three-dimensional, right? We were so used to watching 2D animation in our life. I'm positive that it was the first step towards CG because it was somewhere on the path to feeling like something was three-dimensional. And CG got there and was able to do it, obviously, at a higher level, which exploded. And then the whole world expected nothing but CG. Because Will Vinton's animation quality wasn't that great, and a lot of their stuff was very limited in what they could do. But the appeal was through the roof. There was a ton of appeal in that stuff. So it was really special. So it was an awesome run they had of real success doing stop motion and bringing it to the masses. So I think he's awesome. I think he was really awesome. It's really a bummer that it kind of faded away. But it also became Leica, so it was part of the evolution into something even greater. So Will Vinton was iconic in that way. Are you working on a new Overwatch animation? I'm not allowed to say, but I might do something with a little toy just to feed you guys something while I'm making some real stuff. But see this little Reaper there? I love those little figures too, and I have a few of them. So I was thinking about it because my Overwatch fans haven't gotten anything new to look at lately, that I might just do something fun down there in the garage. Just something just to feed some TikTok folks. Keep it hot. Last film, animated or not, that I loved. I loved Hunt for the Wilder People. If you haven't seen it, it's Taika Waititi. It's an amazing, appealing, heartwarming, beautiful film. And I really love Jojo Rabbit too, which was his follow-up film where he played Hitler, and it was this ridiculous concept, but it was still in. He's such a great writer, and but I'd say Hunt for the Wilder People is 100% love. Like, that one is just within my rotation forever. Pure love of that film. It's movie magic. Okay, let's see here. Would you drop stop motion if you were asked to work at Pixar? No, never. I'm never going to drop stop motion. Just so you know, stop motion is forever. Like, I'm a mover, just to share that with you guys. I like to do sports and move and do actions. But I'm getting older and my body hurts a lot more now. At some point, I am not going to be able to do stunts. At some point, I am not going to be able to jump off walls and fall and land on myself. I will break. But I will be able to animate forever, which I love. So when my body stops moving, I'm going to be moving other bodies. And so I will never stop. I'm an animator for life. I love animation with all my heart. It's amazing. Let's see here. Do you think it's possible for you to become a full-time influencer as you've got a following now? You know, who's asking this? It's hard to read it here. Sammer, it's hard because it's on white. Absolutely, I could become a full-time influencer. I don't know if that's what I want to do. But I'm about 1 million followers almost on TikTok. I'm about 47,000, I think, here on Instagram. And I'm not putting tons of energy into it. I'm respecting it, and I'm really loving sharing with the people and fans of animation. But that's a big decision because I love being a professional animator. I love working on projects, and I love, what I do for a job. So I don't know if I want to be a full-time influencer, but at some point I definitely want to become indie and tell my stories. Instead of telling everyone else's stories in the world, I want to tell mine. And one cool part of that is at Blizzard now, I'm directing. And that's a big goal of mine that just happened recently. And I'm really excited about it because now I'm getting to be a little bit more in charge of what kind of stories are told. And, that's just personal Justin goal. That's why I make films in the garage with my wife, Shelly, is because we want to tell our stories too, I love animation, but we're storytellers. All right. How do you approach a moving hold in stop motion? Well, this is interesting. I touch the puppets. At Leica and a lot of other projects, everything is on winders now. And if you have things on winders, you could do the tiniest increments. I don't really mess with winders because I want to have a connection with my puppets. And I don't mind if it's a little bit imperfect. So moving holds for me it can be a million little tricks. It can be me just tapping the character to keep them, floating, moving through something. Or it can be me maybe keeping one of my tie downs looser and then just slowly tightening it, which kind of acts as like a mini winder. But typically I'll also go to twos when I'm getting into the small, tiny stuff. So because it's too small at a certain point to animate and touch it at that level. So I'll drop down to twos from ones to get a nice ease out. So it's just like little tricks like that to do a moving hold. But typically I just gently poke until it happens. How old were you when you did your first animation? I was really young when I did my first flip books. I was probably 6 when I did flip books. And then throughout the years, I would do an occasional flip book every, 3-4 years or something. And then, but my first real animation where like I sat down and I had a little bit of education wasn't until college. I went to art school and I had 2D animation class. So that was it. I started animating, like balls and flour sacks and then eventually characters I designed and all that. How are you, Justin from Vico? I'm great, Vico. Good to see you, man. I'm loving watching your Skeletor and He-Man stuff. It's awesome. Your work looks amazing. Any advice for a beginner on how to make an action figure animation look good? For a beginner? It's so hard to, because I can't totally educate a beginner, but the easiest one is this, right? Arcs. I say it all the time. This word, arc, right? See how my arm is moving like this? Here's a pose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? See that creates an arc. If your poses are going like this as you're going through that arc, it's going to look bad. But if you track your hand and make sure that arc, these invisible arcs for the head, for the hands, for the feet, and for the hip are all clean before you take a photo. Every time you take a photo, make sure all your arcs are maintaining clean. Your quality of animation will go up a lot. So that's my biggest advice to a young beginner. How old were you the first time you saw Roger Rabbit? I saw Roger Rabbit at the theater, just so you know. Maybe 11? Maybe I was about 11 years old when I saw it. I remember being amazed, like everyone was. The way they shaded the characters and the interactions was really felt very 3D, like CG a lot sometimes. So Really impressive. And the animation was all at 24 frames per second. Richard Williams, you know, super flowy stuff. And so really, really high quality. I loved it. But I was probably about 11, I'm guessing. I don't think I was older than that. But maybe I was. I don't know. I'm older. Show the T-Rex, please. Fabby. Yes, I will show the T-Rex. So, like I said, this is Eduardo Oropesa at T-Rex Productions. Look at this freaking beauty. This is the highest quality. Highest. Look at those feet. See those feet? See those claws? I don't know if you can see that. I'll try to focus a little bit. See those eyes, those mouth? That tail? Gorgeous. Yeah, if you guys are interested in not a T-Rex, but in any kind of dinosaur puppeting, go talk to Eduardo Oropesa at T-Rex Productions. He's the best guy out there. And he can make you pretty much any kind of dinosaur you want. And they're amazing. You already saw some of the tests. I think I've only done 2 tests with my dinosaur so far. But if you saw them, you can see how awesome they could be. So definitely hit them up. Let's see here. What was your first paid job in stop motion? How you feel being paid for something you love? It feels amazing, Fabby. To get paid doing what you love, I'll tell you right now, part of you feels like you're sheepish about it, right? Like, is this okay? Like, am I really getting paid? And you get paid well, right? If you're doing professional work, you're going to get paid well. Yeah, I feel grateful, man. I feel so lucky that I get to animate and get paid to bring things to life. It's incredible. And I know how hard my parents worked growing up to get real jobs where they worked really hard and had to get really educated from very, humble means. And it was, and then here I am, doing this, right? Animating characters, making cartoons, and I feel really grateful. It feels really amazing. So it feels awesome. Do you know how communities on the internet to share or collaborate with other animator students? Oh my gosh, there's so many. I don't know. I'm a little out of the loop these days, but I can tell you that when I started, I went to stopmotionanimation.com, and I learned so much there on the message boards. There was a guy there named Nick Hillengoss, an Australian animator from the Harryhausen kind of era of puppetry, and he was super helpful. And there's just there was a great community there, so you could ask questions, you could share your work, and it was really inspiring for me to show my puppets, because I was an artist, but I didn't know how to do any of these things. I would just show my sculptures, I would show my molds, I showed sets, I showed animation tests, and it really, when you're in a community like that, it really helps inspire you, keep you inspired to keep producing, because stop motion's hard and it takes a lot of time. And if you're getting pumped up by the community, it just helps you get through some of these long, hard projects. I think there's a clay one too called clayanimation.com as well. I wasn't as much there because I just wasn't a clay guy, but I went and checked it out too, and there's definitely a community of people there. But nowadays, honestly, if you're just on Instagram or TikTok, you can fucking talk to, you're talking to me right now. You can talk to pretty much anyone that does what we do. And most of them will talk back. It's pretty amazing. Like, I wish I had anything like this when I was a kid. Access to real animators and real, other artists. You guys are lucky. Hey, William, the stop motion group on Facebook is a good community. Good call, man. I didn't even think about Facebook. Of course, Facebook has huge communities. In fact, that's probably nowadays which one I am more active on than any. Because, like, if I put up a new episode or something, sometimes I'll jump on there. Like, some of the new animations, sometimes I'll post on there. Like my cat, I'll go post my cat that I just finished up there in a couple days. And, you know, I put my He-Man, Motu stuff up there. There's a lot of great communities on Facebook. So look it up. There's a ton of groups in different countries. Brazilian stop motion, UK stop motion community, West Coast stop motion community, professionals, practical effects, you name it. Do you recommend some good animation books? I recommend this pretty much every week. Animator Survival Kit. It's probably the biggest shortcut to learning some of the craft of animation. If you apply the stuff you read in that book, your work's going to stand out. So, Animator Survival Kit. Where do you buy your stop motion gear? The adjustable arms that support the figure. You can get anything off of Amazon. Just go to Amazon and type in stop motion winder, stop motion armature, stop motion winder. You're going to find equipment. My whole career, I've made my stop motion equipment. The winder that I have right now, I got as a professional about 12 years after I started doing animation. It was from a guy named Maxwell Sorensen. You can find him on Instagram, and he makes winders. They're very expensive. So for young animators or animators that are, you know, doing action figures, whatever, if you're not a professional, you do not need a super powerful winder. You can get a really as cheap one as you can get, and it'll work great. And for, like I said, for me, I did years and years of good animation just using a wire on a 5-pound weight. I never needed a winder. It makes it cooler and easier, yeah, but it's a big cost. So it's up to you, but Maxwell Sorensen makes them, and they're awesome, high quality. So go check them out. Can you choose the takes that you're gonna do in a feature film? No, no. On a feature film, you're cast like an actor. So you will get, your supervisor will cast you to do a certain sequence, typically, or shot that they think you will be good at. Sometimes the schedule will dictate that. Like if someone else is busy on another shot and they need someone to do it. But typically, the supervisors will choose the shot, sequence, or characters you're going to be working on during a film. Can you share a bit about your early video game work? Yeah, what do you want to know? I started, my very first video game job was a Japanese video game company called Konami. And in the 80s, that was pretty amazing because I grew up playing Konami games, right? So like Contra, Prince of Persia, you know, there was huge hits that were part of that, you know, like Metal Gear, that game company, right? And so when I graduated art school and then they made me an offer to go work for them, I was like, whoa, okay, wow, I'm going to be making Castlevania. That was all Konami, right? I'm going to go make video games. The last thing I thought I'd make happen. But it was an amazing job, and it was really fun. And things were transferring from 2D to CG, right? So it was right at that place where Castlevania Symphony of the Night was the last 2D game that they really made. And then it was all going CG. So then there was Metal Gear Solid and a bunch of sports games, all kinds of stuff after that. So I worked there for 3 years before I came out to California. That was in Chicago. And then I started working for Activision and some small game companies where I made some Vigilante 8 series games. It was a car combat around the Twisted Metal era. PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, Dreamcast. And then I worked on some Sony games, some Ratchet and Clanks, some Jack and Daxter type games. It's been a long. I worked on Shrek games. I worked on a game called True Crime. So Shrek 2, True Crime 1 and 2, which was a really huge hit too. A bunch. I did motion capture acting for a bunch of games like Uncharted 2. I've been working in games a long time. PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale. I did a Sonic game for the Sonic Boom. All kinds of stuff. Hope that's a little bit information there. Could you do a Godzilla vs. Kong animation? I would really love to do that. But I think there's a lot of other people doing that one already. I'm pretty positive there's a lot of people doing that one. What is my thoughts? I think it's awesome. It's giant monsters fighting. I want to animate monsters. I like fighting monsters. Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. It's just a big popcorn movie. I think you're going to see a lot of that coming very soon, though. So keep your eyes on TikTok and Instagram. It's going to be out there. People are really good at riding trends in this Toymation community. Where did you go to study animation, or did you teach yourself? I went to a school called Art Institute of Pittsburgh, where I learned 2D animation and practical effects. Even though I got educated in animation there, I didn't really learn to animate until I got into the professional field. Then I really started doing a lot of self-study. I really started making smaller communities where I really started diving in, taking more personal classes, really pushing into that department. Because when I first graduated, I was hired as an artist. I wasn't hired as an animator. But I was really good at animation, so they kept kind of putting me into that position on professional jobs. So they kept saying, oh, give it to Justin. He's going to animate. And then I just started specializing more and more in animation. Stop motion, I taught myself completely, but I already knew the craft of animation. So it was easy to transfer that over, and just more about learning technical things like the problems that come with real puppets. So self-taught stop motion, educated at Art Institute of Pittsburgh. Have you ever tried animating a lightsaber fight? Nope, not yet. It sounds fun though. I would love to do it. I've seen some pretty good ones online. I think it would be fun. Any tips for animators who strictly use action figures? I know I've told Van Vertees says this. I've mentioned this before. I've only animated one toy in my career, right? And that was the He-Man toys. The He-Man short I did was the first time I'd ever animated toys. And so tips, I don't feel qualified to give you tips other than, I understand how joints can be sticky. I would say put in tie downs. That'll help you so you can stabilize the feet. Otherwise, you're just dealing with the limitations of the character. And then if you're applying good animation, which is, like I said earlier, tracking your arcs, spacing, timing, good posing, then your animation's going to look good. So I'm sorry, I'm not very qualified to give Toymation just yet. Tips. The hardest thing when directing a team of animators. Oh, well, I've been a lead animator for most of my career. For at least 15, 17 years, I was a lead animator. The hardest thing when directing a team of animators, I think it's just keeping everyone motivated and everyone excited. And, when I lead teams, I really make it a point to show and talk about animation and geek on it and remember why we love it. So it's not a job all the time. And I remember on Fridays, I would do a special day where we just watch cartoons. We'll go into the conference room for an hour and we just talk and we will watch cartoons. And each of us would maybe bring in something to share and talk about why we love this animation. And what it does is it just pumps you up and it keeps you, driving and looking for growth. So the hardest thing was just keeping everybody kind of motivated and excited during a project, because sometimes it can be a grind. It can be a real grind. Show us your studio a little bit. I'll show you guys on another, the next time I have a live stream. I'm not going to show you today. I was actually in there last week too. Pineapple on pizza? I could do it. It doesn't bother me. I'm okay, big boy froggy. It doesn't gross me out like it does some people, that's for sure. What character, movie, or game first got you interested in animation? Oh, man. Well, I mean, Secret of Nem. I call that out every week. Secret of Nem blew my 5-year-old mind. Blew it. Very much got me interested in art and animation. Jason and the Argonauts. Huge inspiration. Clash of the Titans. Dark Crystal. Man, I grew up watching a lot of Disney films. DuckTales was really fun to me, even though I was much older when that was on. Bumble, Rudolph's Special was really, really inspiring to me as a very young person. How would you react if Leica chooses you as a director suddenly? Whoa. I would be, first off, completely surprised, because there's no way on earth that would ever happen. But I would be like, badass, let's do it. I would take it in a heartbeat, and I would be really excited to be a part of directing, telling a story with that talent at that studio. I would really, it would be a dream come true, big time. Big time. You like the MCU? I think you're saying Marvel Universe, maybe? MCU? I don't know what MCU is, but Marvel Capcom. Oh, Marvel Capcom Universe. Duh. Oh, yeah, I do a lot. It's amazing. I love the Street Fighter games and Capcom mix-ups, and of course, I have like up there in the corner, if you see him, there's Mega Man up there. I'm a fan of Capcom. I worked for them on one title too, called Bionics years ago, and it was really cool to finally, touch that company that had done so much amazing stuff. Work for that company, yeah. Okay, what's your favorite project you ever worked on? I think it's... favorite project ever worked on. I guess Paranorman. I think Paranorman was my favorite. It was really, really magical. First feature film for me. Incredible designs. I love the designs. 80s vibe, which of course is going to touch me because I'm an 80s guy. It just was such a dream come true, and I love the character design so much that it will always kind of be my first love in for a project. Can I work for you? Fabi says. I don't know, man. Where do you live? And also, what do you do? Are you a puppet maker? Are you set maker? Send me your artwork. Let me see it. I bring in interns sometimes on some of our projects, and we, teach them some of the steps and ropes. So yeah, we bring in people sometimes. Let's see here. What's your least favorite aspect of creating stop motion? That's cool. My least favorite part of creating stop motion. So this is an interesting question, because in a professional level, when I'm, say, working on a Leica film, I hate the pressure the production puts on you. Leica is the best studio ever doing stop motion, right? So the quality bar is way up here, and that's really, really hard to do. And what they want is they want the quality way up here, but really fast. And you can't always make those two happen. So that pressure, the pressure from production, when they're like, how many frames you got? Are you almost done? Are you finished? Are you almost done? I hate that. I hate it. It's so gross to me. This stuff takes time. We are trying to do our best always. Nobody is lazy in stop motion. We are always trying to do our best. So I really hate that production squeeze. Because they're not artists. All they care about is getting frames. So that's annoying. My least favorite part of doing stop motion in, say, my private life, my garage is it's kind of hard to say because I enjoy the whole process. Maybe I wish I didn't have to do lighting. And that sounds silly because lighting's cool. But out of all the things that I have to do, I love sculpting, I love animating, I love storyboarding, putting shots together. I like building sets. But lighting, I don't feel very confident in. And I just want someone else to do it. I just wish someone else would come and light my stuff and make it look beautiful. So I think that's my least favorite aspect of stop motion. But I like that too, really. I'm just complaining. Do you also like Marvel movies? Yeah, sure. I grew up a comic book guy. I would die if I was a kid back in the 80s and I could see realized in live action at this level all those comics that I loved so much reading as a kid, seeing them realized like this. And, you know, I got to watch that through my son, right? I have a son who's 29 years old now. And I raised him on comics too. I have two sons and I have a daughter too. And he is such a fiend for the Marvel films because he got to have that. He got to be a huge comic book fan and then see it come out 100% at the end. And that was really magical. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the Marvel movies too. I am. How do you take steps towards a stable career in animation rather than freelance? Well, CG animation is the answer there. If you want to have stable work, you become a CG animator because there's way more job opportunities and insurance and studios with long-term projects. If you are a stop-motion animator, it's really hard. It's easier now than ever, so I don't want to dissuade everyone, but it's really hard because they're like circuses that come to town. And right now, just so you know, in Portland, there's 3 feature films happening: Pinocchio, Wendell and Wild, and What Leica's Doing. And Pinocchio and Wendell and Wild are tents, circus tents that they built for those movies. They did not exist as studios except for those movies. Once those movies are over, unless they have something I don't know about, circus tents go down. Leica is the only one left. That means Leica is the only stable stop motion job year round. If you're working in television, there's a lot of studios out here in LA, so you can kind of bounce. If you're in the system, if you're in the pipe, you're a cool person, you can get a job and kind of bounce around from show to show, season to season. Robot Chicken season 11, Super Mansion season 4, Crossing Swords season 2, Stupid Buddies. Wherever you're working, you can kind of get jobs. But really, jobs kind of appear and then disappear. Shows don't last forever. They might go away. So it's a lot harder. So if you surround yourself in a community where you're known, you're cool, and you can kind of keep some stability of your work, you might have a show that lasts 6 months. You can keep a pretty constant stream, but you're always going to have downtime. And in stop motion, it's never steady. So it's really, really hard for me to say, that's a possibility, because it's not. You're always going to be kind of a freelancer on some level in stop motion, unless something changes very drastically in stop motion, which I doubt, because it's such a niche thing. So being able to do both is what I always recommend. If you can animate in stop motion and CG, then you're covered. What do you think of RoboCop movie effects, the first one? I love them. I love it. Huge RoboCop fan. Massive inspiration. As you can see, I've got my Ed 209 right there. I watch RoboCop once a year. I love RoboCop. All right. Do you take acting references from actors, or do I do my own? I do my own. If I'm using reference, I'll just do myself. In my CG job, I do reference every single shot. Unless it's super cartoony, then maybe not. But typically, I do reference every single CG shot that I do. In stop motion, I don't use reference very much. Unless I have to. Or want to, right? So like, when you go to Leica says, at least when I was there on Kubo, they said at a certain point in the production, mandatory live action reference. Mandatory. And I was like, damn, that sucks. But they were going for a certain look. And obviously Leica has a certain style, and it's moving more and more towards live action reference. Or very referenced animation style. So I don't in stop motion, especially here in the garage. I like to just play. Unless, there's something specific that I'm like, I wonder how that works. More often, I will choreograph with my wife. Very often, we choreograph it, and then I draw stuff. So I go in with like a treasure map of posing. So I have a really clear understanding of posing, and then the rest I just play and improvise. I think that answered it. But yes, I use myself. We as animators are actors. So you have to get comfortable with playing different characters, because that's your job, right? You're constantly acting as a different character. Is there a possibility that I might work at Pixar? I don't think so. It's always possible. I've never tried. So they're in San Francisco. I live in Los Angeles. I love my job at Blizzard. I'm not really interested in working for them. So if I go anywhere, it would be for Leica movies or a faraway production that's stop motion in some magical way that would pull me away. Otherwise, I'm just Blizzard animator, and I love what I do there very much. You should make an Avatar, The Last Airbender stop motion. Yeah, I should. I agree with this one. My daughter is a huge fan. My son loves Avatar. I have stripes. Come on. I might do that at some point. I think I've seen one other person do an Avatar thing, but I think I could really rock that one. So it's on my list, believe me, to do that. Let's see here. What's the best way to get that buttery smooth animation? Mine's too slow. The buttery smooth animation, all that is you're tracking your character really, really well. That's all it is. It's a technical skill. That's all it is. So buttery smooth means you're paying attention in a hyper way to every single piece of the character, tracking the nose, the shoulders, the hips, the hands, the head, the feet, perfectly. Hold on, my dog's yapping. So that's how you get the buttery smooth. Come on, Belle, come in. That's the only way to get it, is to basically develop your eye enough to move the puppet in a way that's going to be smooth. And that just takes practice. Lots of... Okay, something of Diablo on the horizon. Oh, Diablo is my favorite game, by the way, from Blizzard. Just so you know. I can't tell you guys anything about it because I'll get fired from my favorite job ever. So I will not tell you, but come on, think about it. Come on. Diablo, come on. It's awesome. It's awesome. Let's see here. Do you have any... Is there a fictional world that hasn't been brought to screen which you would like to adapt? Ooh, that's a fun one. Yeah. I don't know how many of you are comic book fans, but there was a Wizard of Oz comic that was out for a while there years ago with an incredible artist doing these designs that were so appealing for those characters and all of those stories, all those Wizard of Oz stories. And I think that would be amazing to do in stop motion. I would love to bring that one to life. It really, like when they put out that new Oz film a few years ago, it was so lame to me. I love Wizard of Oz. I still watch it every Thanksgiving, and it just was CG and feeling really plasticky and just didn't have any magic to it at all. And I think telling the original story with stop motion puppets and those amazing designs from that comic would be so powerful. I would love to do that. That would be my pick. Wizard of Oz. Do you have any tips on claymation? Nope, I don't, because I'm not a clay animator. I really I'm new to it, very much like the toymation stuff I've been doing. If you saw my claymation werewolf, that was pretty much really my first real attempt at claymation. And it was really hard because it was melty and I couldn't maintain the structure or the integrity of the design that I wanted, because every time I pushed on the character, it would, mess it up. So I couldn't get the animation I wanted at the same time as, keeping the design cool. So my tips are, now that I've done two, because I did the Frantic Frames in clay too, I'll let you know this. The Frantic Frames, I used Super Sculpey, which is a little stiffer than the Van Aken that I was using on the werewolf, which was much easier to animate. So I would just say probably put an understructure in whatever you build in clay. Because if you don't have some kind of a skeleton in there, it just turns to mush and it gets really bad, or it really limits your animation possibilities. Like a lot of the old Will Venton stuff, which was really great looking, but it didn't animate very well because they were very limited in what they could do. So put an understructure, which means an armature, a wire armature underneath that gives you some kind of a structure to push against. Did you see Missing Link? Yeah, of course. I watch anything and everything from Leica, and I love supernatural things like Bigfoot, Nessie, and UFOs. And so when that film was being made, I was actually really excited. I was going to work on it. And then Blizzard made me a full-time offer right when I was basically getting the offer from Leica to come back. And, Blizzard was a better deal for me, and decided to stay. So, but I still saw the film, and the film was cool. The style of animation was a little too referenced for my taste. I've mentioned this, and I'm not dissing. It's really hard to do what they do at Leica, but I just don't like it that much. So it was really cool. Looks great, but it looks very CG to me, unfortunately. And what we do is stop motion, and those little imperfections are why it's different and why it tastes different and why it's magical. And when it just, everything, the CG backgrounds, CG characters, like, it just all starts to feel like, why am I eating the same thing? Why not just do it in CG, Coraline, to this day, is still their best film, in my opinion, because it has tiny bits of imperfections. The story is clean. The character designs are awesome. Coraline's magic. It's great. So I wish they would get back to that a little bit more. But they are the best. They're the best in the business for sure. Like it. Diablo 1, 2, or 3, what's your go-to character? I'm always the barbarian. It's silly, but I like barbarians. Very cool. Even in the new one, I'm sure I'll be barbarian. Do you like Chromie? I don't know what Chromie is. What's Chromie? I have no idea. Is it a TV show or something? Have you tried hair gel for water effects in stop-mo? Not for water effects, but I think I saw you do that. Actually, now that I think about it, Animatable Alex, you did that iPhone thing. That was really cool. No, I used hair gel for tears of my dog in my very first film, but I haven't tried it for water yet. I'd love to try that. Once I saw it, I thought that was a great idea. All right. Let's see. Can we ask, what exactly are your responsibilities at Blizzard? What kind of scenes do you direct? Well, I'm an animator, a senior animator at Blizzard. So far, for 5 years, that's what I've done. I directed the 2 stop motion shorts for Overwatch, which were specialty things, but I also animated them, right? Now that I'm directing, I can't tell you, right? Because it's super top secret and I could get fired, which is not going to happen. So my responsibilities are I direct teams of artists now. That anything writers, artists, storyboard artists, animators, everything all the way to the end. Music, sound. Basically, I make the decisions and I drive the vision of the project that I'm directing. And I'm now on my second directing gig outside of the stop motion stuff right now. So I'm still learning too. But that's pretty much what I do. I go to work and I give feedback and I define the vision and then I make sure everyone sticks to it. All right. So there is crunch in animation, or is it a thing for video games? There's crunch in animation for sure. More in video games. But if there's crunch, I do overtime at Blizzard all the time on shows. And what I'm doing there is not in-game. It's pre-rendered cinematics, right? So we do it there. If you're in visual effects, there's definitely a lot of crunch. If you're in feature film, there's periods of crunch. You'll work for a while at 40s. And then at a certain part in production, they're like, okay, we got to get this thing done. And you go up to 45s or 50s. And that's how many hours you work in a week. And then at the end, you might go up to 60s. And everybody's grinding. Maybe you're working on Saturdays, trying to make your date and make sure the film gets done. So there's crunch all over. There really is. All right, I'm doing 2 more questions. And then I'm going to go hang out with my family. When you sculpt a character, the armature underneath is screwed to the board, yes. But when you move into mold making, it's no longer attached. How do you detach it? I'll show you right now. So you can do it anyway, but what I do is I'll usually, as I build the armature, I'll screw from the top directly down in a little screw so that when I put a Phillips head screwdriver in there, I can undo it. But here, in this case, of the Viking character, as you can see, it's on a box, right? This box is hollow. So underneath there, can you see that? There's your tie-down holes. So it's just a little hollow box that acts as a riser, which is great when I'm sculpting because then I don't have to bend over. And then also, I just reach under and unscrew it. And then it becomes free for me to take it off and lay it down and mold it. That's how I do it. Otherwise, there's a little resculpting involved if you're just pushing through and doing the Phillips head style. What skills from stop motion translate well for directing, generally speaking? I don't know of any skills that translate. It's more like if you're a good animator in stop motion, you'll be a good animator and other things. So you can see, because your eyes... That's what's going to make you valuable in another situation. So performance, you're good at performance. You understand acting. You understand action and physics of the body. That's pretty much the only thing that transfers over, unless in stop motion you're doing directing too, right? Like I obviously will storyboard my films, my stop motion films, and then of course if I go work on a CG thing, I'm still going to be able to storyboard. So all those skills transfer over too. And here we go. Have an amazing weekend, you too, Lawson. Thank you. Aside from buying Dragon Frame, do you have to make a license? I don't know what that means. I think you're saying, do you have to buy a license for it? I imagine so. They might have a student version for people that are just learning, which is much cheaper than a professional version. So you can go look for that. I think that's probably, if you're a young person trying just learning, you could probably get the student version. But there's cheap ones out there. You don't need very much when you're learning to animate. You just need something that takes photographs and plays back. All right, last one. Claymation ships. All right. I'm sure animators are able to see each other and each other's work. If one of your peers saw something, what would make them go, "That's Justin," from D. Montooth? It's kind of hard. I know exactly what you're saying because animators have particular styles. And usually a supervising animator's job is to keep everyone on the same, on model, right? And the same style so that that doesn't stand out too much. I think, if they were to pick something out from mine, it would be good mechanics. Because I think that's just a part of me as being a mover my whole life. Is I understand balance and I understand weight shifts. I understand force and pushing through to create energy in an animation. So I think that would be the thing that they see most in me is my knowledge of mechanics, how things move physically through the world. I think that would be what they pick out. So it's not as specific as like, oh, that's Justin timing. You see that like cartoony snap? That's all him. I'm pretty able to bounce around between styles like cartoony or realistic, but it's more like there's always good mechanics. I always have good mechanics in my work. All right, folks. Another Friday. It's time for me to go hang with my family, get some dinner. Thanks for coming. I'm really going to say it again. If you guys are interested in Patreon or some education that's not a full course like I teach, if you guys would really be interested in supporting that, please let me know. Because I'm considering putting up tutorials there instead of, in my normal format. So let me know. Thanks, guys. Bye. See you next Friday.